Howdy folks, my name is Richie aka Otter here with a very special Hearthstone video. At Blizzcon 2014, they just announced this weekend that the first expansion for the game, Goblins versus Gnomes, is going to hit in December of 2014. So about a month away from completely changing the game. I attended BlizzCon from the comfort of my own couch through the virtual ticket, watched all the panels on this new expansion. I wanted to kind of break down what this expansion is, what are some of the things that are going to be going into it, what are the new features, and we're going to take a look at some of the new cards as well. So let's get to it. What is this expansion? Well, obviously, we've got the two diminutive races in Azeroth that are going to be squaring off against each other, and they both are the tinkering type races, right? So goblins usually make things that blow up, and gnomes usually make different types of things that go awry. So it's really a lot of chaos and a lot of random and a lot of technological creations that are going to be coming out of this. But why is it going to change the game? Well, over the summer, they released Curse of Naxxramas. And the Curse of Naxxramas expansion, or the adventure pack, I should say, that wasn't really an expansion, added 30 new cards to the game. And that totally changed all of the decks, the whole meta, how people play it. So those 30 cards had a huge impact. This expansion, if you look right here, over 120 new cards are going into the game. Oh my god. So really, we're about to see a huge evolution of the game when this new influx of cards go in. Like all the decks that people are playing now are going to go out the window. People are going to have to invent new things. And first, for a while, the state of the game is going to be in flux again, which is fun because it doesn't become, right now there's a bunch of different decks that the pro players play, and people tweak them here and there. But you can bet your bottom that when you get into the lower rank games, you're going to find Control Warrior and Warlock Zoo and Miracle Rogue, and you're gonna Handlock. You're gonna find these standard decks in there. Well, this is gonna shake everything up. So, all right, how is this gonna work? You're going to be able to buy these packs with your gold. You're going to be able to buy these packs with your in-game currency. But you can also use real-world dollars just like you can the expert packs now. By the way, the expert packs are going to be renamed Classic, I believe. So you're going to be able to spend 100 gold and get a pack of these new cards, or you're going to be able to just buy them outright with money. So start saving up now. You can craft the new cards with crafting dust. It's no new currencies coming into this. So any dust that you've saved up or any gold will be appropriate to this expansion. So that's all good news. The one thing I'm not so keen on is apparently the rewards for playing in the arena are going to be packs of cards from the new expansion, which I guess for a while is going to be great. Because people are just going to want the new shinies. But, that's my primary method of actually gaining new cards from the original set. I still don't have all the epic cards, and I still don't have all of the legendaries yet. So I play the arena rather than just opening up packs outright, because I can play the game, hopefully even win some gold on it and get the old cards. Well, I'm going to be able to do that with the new expansion, but they don't have an option to get old packs through the arena anymore. If you want those, you're going to have to spend gold or real money and just buy the packs outright. So I'm not crazy about that change. I'd rather you have a choice of some way to set that while you're playing the arena. But the developers have said that they don't have the tech for that built, and that they're not really looking to do that. So we're going to have to live with that. All right, let's get into, actually, before I get into the cards, I want to kind of show off a couple other things real quick here. We're going to get a new board type, so it's going to be Goblin and Gnome theme. Anyone who's watched my Hearthstone videos, you know that I love clicking on all this stuff. I can't wait to click these buttons and switches and see what it does. And the other thing that's coming in is a spectator mode. And this is awesome, all right? So everyone knows that Hearthstone is a really great game to watch. It's one of the more popular games on Twitch, and the World Championship that just went on at BlizzCon. I mean, the streams leading up to that, we're getting 130,000 plus people watching it. So it's definitely a spectator esport. People like it. But now you can actually, anybody in your friends list, you will have the option to spectate a game if they're in the middle of it, and you can just join right in. They will see how many spectators they have watching, and you can actually watch from their perspective. But you can also mouse over different cards and mouse over the history of the turns, and you will actually see all that in there. So they showed some of that off at BlizzCon, and it looked really, really cool. You can also prevent people from watching your games, and you can also boot people out if they're being annoying and whatnot. So that's good as well. But why this is really cool for, just for me personally, my friends and I, who play Hearthstone, sometimes we want to advise each other and watch each other's games. And so what we've been doing is we've been using a website called TeamViewer, which allows you to kind of remote into the other person and see their screen. And it works. It does its job. Sometimes it's a little clunky. Sometimes it's a little slow. But that's going to eliminate the need for that. You don't have to be like live streaming and somebody like watching with a delay or anything like that. It's just going to be built into the game. It's going to be really great for coaching and just watching each other play. So I can't wait for that. And in addition to that, they actually have the ability to, and this is great for people who are organizing tournaments online, you have the ability to spectate two players at once, as long as they both allow it. And if you're spectating both players at once, then it's perfect for a tournament environment. You could see the cards in the hands as the turns change, and it's just one seamless interface rather than the cutting and pasting of different parts of interfacing that a lot of the tournaments have to do now to set up the streams. They look really cool once they set up, but I can just imagine how much work it would be to just get the cameras on both players and then the two screens for you have to flip this. I don't know. It's a lot of work, but they're making the spectator mode so that it's easier to organize tournaments. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff. All right, well, let's jump into some of the cards. Let's have some fun here. So thanks very much to Cool Boy Pie for posting a lot of these online. So this is the kind of opening little shot of the Goblin versus Gnomes. And let's look at our first card. A Noyotron. So you'll see a lot of these are going to be like technological golem type things. And you can see we have a new creature type here. It's called Mech. Now the cool thing is, and I was always wondering if they would do this, they are actually retrofitting some cards to be mechs, so they will synergize with this expansion. For example, Harvest Golem will now be a mech. So I was wondering if they would ever do that before, because I always thought, like, why didn't they just label everything as elves and dwarves and orcs and stuff like that to begin with, just in case they want to eventually do that. This was a problem with Magic the Gathering. They didn't label some creatures as creature types, and then years later they put out an expansion that really cared about creature types, and they couldn't go back and retrofit it. But I guess that's one of the advantages of having a digital card game, is you can retrofit your cards, and it's not like players have physical copies of them that are now obsolete. So, a Noyotron is a 1/2 taunt creature with Divine Shield, 2 mana drop. It's very annoying, is exactly what it is. It's just going to slow down decks. I don't think it's overly powerful or impactful, but I think it'll see some sort of play. And just by the way, my opinions of these cards are going to be so obsolete. We saw this with Naxxramas. A lot of people did reviews of different cards. I'm not telling you how good they are necessarily, just my overall gut instinct just looking at them first time. Like, for example, when people first saw the Undertaker in the Naxxramas set, it didn't seem like it was going to be such a big impactful card. That's because the meta was different then, and now all of a sudden, real people are throwing them into like all sorts of decks, these Undertakers, and it's one of the more popular cards right now. So, take everything what I say with a grain of salt. I might say something stinks, and it might be the best card in the world once the expansion comes out. We're getting a very small sample size of the 120 cards. All right, the next one here is Explosive Sheep. It's hilarious. I love the art on it. All right, so it's a 1/1 for 2 mana, and it's a death rattle. It deals 2 damage to all minions. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. That's a fun card. I like that. Now we've got, this is a series of cards. You will see these at different rarities. All right, so basically what these golems do is they have a death rattle to summon a random 4-cost minion when it dies. So there's one that will actually summon a 2-cost minion, and that'll be cheaper. We'll see that in a little bit. And basically the theory here is there's actually a goblin or a gnome or some sort of creature piloting this golem, so when you kill the golem, they parachute out the actual minion that's driving it. And there's actually an animation when you play the game, and a little parachute comes down, and the card will drop onto the field, so it's cool. This 6 mana for a 6/4, that's pricey for the stats, and summoning a 4-cost minion when it dies is good. But you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Obviously, if you get like a Chillwind Yeti or a Sen'jin Shieldmaster, then that's great. But there are plenty of 4-drops that are kind of like meh, and this is, it's a little bit of a pricey card. The problem with playing turn 6 creature with only 4 health is it's pretty easy to kill. Okay, Enhanso Mechano. This card's crazy. 4 mana for a 3/2, but a battle cry. Give your other minions Wind Fury, Taunt, or Divine Shield at random. And that's all of the minions on your side. Uh, so yeah, that's a crazy card, especially if you got just like a board full of like stuff and you play that. That could be a game changer right there. Good thing it's an epic. You won't see that too often in arenas. Unstable Portal, this is a mage spell, I believe? Yeah, it's got the blue border on it. So it's 2 mana, add a random minion to your hand, and it costs 3 less. That's like a random minion. There's a lot of minions that could be. So, it's really just a potluck type thing. It could be great, it could be terrible. Matter Bomber. This is the Mad Bomber's big brother. All right, this one's great. All right, so 5 mana for a 5/4 really isn't bad, right? You'd expect a 5/5 for 5 mana, so this is a 5/4, but it deals 6 damage randomly split between all other characters. So, it's crazy how it could just like destroy a board when you play this. I think this card will see a lot of play. I think this is a good card to pick up in the arena for sure. Cogmaster. All right, so now we're going to see the first card that synergizes with the mech creature type. So it's a 1/2 for 1 mana, and it has +2 attack while you have a mech. This guy could actually see some play. We're probably expect to see some decks that are all mech themed, and this guy will probably be featured in it. You play him on turn 1, turn 2, you get out of mech, then suddenly you have a 3/2 on the second turn that could already swing. Villain's Chosen is a priest card. You give a minion +2/+4 and spell damage +1. It's actually pretty decent buff card for your own minions. I like that they're trying to make spell damage relevant. Because right now it's kind of like a nice to have, but not too many decks build around spell damage at the moment. But what's really interesting about this is one of the shortcomings of the priest is they have removal spells that kill creatures with 1, 2, or 3 power. Right? That's what is it? Power word, pain, something like that. Shadow word pain. I think power word pain. I don't know. Yeah. And then they also have one that does the shadow word death, and which is creatures with 5 or more attack. And there's that sweet spot in the middle. The priest's enemy is anything with a 4 attack power because they can't remove it with that. Well, you can actually use Villain's Chosen to make a 4 attack creature into a 6 attack creature, which makes them susceptible to shadow word death. So it's interesting that priests get that. All right, how awesome is this guy? Dr. Boom. Of course, a play on words for Dr. Doom in Marvel. He's a 7 for 7/7, and he summons 2 1/1 boom bots when he comes into play. We'll see boom bots in a little bit, but I believe what they are, they're 1/1 creatures that when they die, they deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy. I believe that's how they work, but we'll see that in a minute. But this is a really cool looking card. All right, we got so we got a couple here in the same one. We did Cogmaster, Dr. Boom. All right, we saw all of those. I know Otter. All right, so we've got Blingtron 3000 now. We'll zoom in a little bit. Blingtron 3000. He's a 3/4 for 5 mana, so bad stats for the price, and he gives you and your opponent a random weapon. I don't think that's very good at all. I mean, it's bad stats for the mana, and you're giving your opponent a weapon. Now, sure, you're going to swing first with it, so that's a slight advantage. But there's a bunch of different weapons, and you can get a really crappy one, and your opponent can get an awesome one, and that would spell doom for you. So I don't think that's a very good legendary. All right, we got Bomb Lobber. He's 3/3 for 5 mana, and you can deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. So yeah, that could be useful. It's always good to do 4 damage. You don't get to choose who it is, but it's actually, if they only have one creature on the board, then it's definitely going to be that one, and you can use it more reliably. I think it's a pretty decent card. All right, and this is the Boom Bot that other card would summon, and it's what I said. It's a 1/1, and when it dies, it deals 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy. I'm going to talk at the end of the video a little bit about randomness, because Blizzard actually addressed that quite a bit. And I think it's good to kind of reiterate their stance on randomness, because a lot of people like rail against it, but they don't realize how important it is. Okay, so Flame Cannon. It's 2 mana, deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. I believe this is a mage spell. It's actually pretty decent, but the problem with this is it's a mage spell, and mages already have Frostbolt. And Frostbolt's 2 mana and does 3 damage to a minion. So, you know, it's this, yeah, sure, this does 1 more damage, but it's to a random minion. So that's what, you know, in a different class, this would be a better spell, I think. Goblin Blast Mage is crazy. He's got great stats for 4 mana, 5/4. So anything else that he does is just, you know, icing on the cake. And his battlecry is pretty decent. If you control a mech, you deal 4 damage randomly split among enemy characters. Very powerful. I think that's a really good card. All right, we saw Matter Bomb already, and Mech Warper over here is new. He's 2/3, but your mechs cost 1 less, and he's a mech. Okay, Piloted Sky Golem we already saw. The Recombobulator, he's a 3/2 for 2 mana, so that's already pretty decent. But you could transform a friendly minion into a random minion with the same cost. That is just so awesome. Yeah, you could use that after an enemy's, you know, one of your creatures is already damaged, they've already attacked for the turn, or maybe they've been silenced or whatever. You just play this guy and you could turn them into something else. That should be very interesting. Shrinkmeister, 3/2 for 2, again, pretty good stats there, and the battle cry, give a minion -2 attack this turn. And this is a priest card. Again, you can give, you can use this to make, you know, make other enemies, you know, make a 4 attack minion susceptible to Shadow Word Pain. So again, the priest has they're getting ways around being able to you know, kill those 4 attack power minions. Sneed's Old Shredder, 5/7 legendary for 8 mana. Summon a random legendary minion when you die. So this is like the Piloted Sky Golem, but instead of summoning a random 4-cost minion, you summon a legendary minion. This is going to be a fun card. I don't know how often it's going to be played, like, seriously. Because, I mean, sure, you can get Ragnaros, you can get Ysera, but you could also get, I don't know, you can get something terrible, like Lord, what's his name? Lore Master Cho. And that'll just totally change the game and make it completely random. So, what do we got here? All right, Mechgineer Thermoplug. 9/7 for 9 mana, and whenever an enemy minion dies, summon a Leper Gnome. So those are the 2/1 that, you know, hurt your enemy when they die. So there's some good flavor on that with Gnome Ragon. Micro Machine. I used to have Micro Machines when I was a kid. 2 mana, 1/2, and at the start of each turn, gain +1 attack. It's actually pretty decent. You know, you don't want a 1 attack creature for 2 mana, but, you know, it's at the start of each turn he gains +1 attack. So as soon as the opponent goes, he's already going to be a 2/2. So if it comes back and he hasn't killed it, then it's going to be a 3/2 on your side. So this guy can be kind of crazy. I'm going to skip to the Piloted Shredder, and we'll come back to Mimron's Head in a minute. Piloted Shredder is just like the other piloted ones, except for when it dies, you summon a random 2-cost minion. This one I like better, because 4/3 creature for 4 mana is not bad. And you're going to get a 2-cost minion out of it. And there's a lot of good 2-drops out there. I think this is more the sweet spot than the spending 6 mana for... What was the other one? 6 mana for a 6/4 versus, you know, 4 mana for a 4/3. I think this one's a little bit stronger. All right, so we got Mimron's Head. This is a legendary. And he's a 4/5 for 5. So his stats are a little bit behind what you would want at 5 mana. But at the start of your turn, if you have at least 3 mechs, destroy them all and form Voltron. And it's not really Voltron. It's VO7TRON. But, you know, it's Voltron, basically. Now, wait till you see what Voltron is. I think it should be over here. Yeah, here it is. We're going to skip over to the right-hand side. Voltron is a 4/8 legendary with charge and Mega Wind Fury. You can attack 4 times a turn with him. What? This guy is nuts. So he does have a very steep condition, you know, to actually enter play. Mimron's Head, you need 3 mechs. You're going to destroy 3 of your creatures. But Voltron is crazy. He can immediately swing that turn for 16 damage. And that's just nuts. If you can buff him up at all, you could pretty much say game over right there. Spider Tank is a vanilla mech. He's just 3/4 for 3. Unstable Portal we did. Upgraded Repair Pod, another priest spell. They previewed a lot of mage and priest stuff. 5/5 for 5 mana, so already great, you know, decent, you know, the stats you would expect for 5 mana. And then he's got a battle cry to give a friendly mech +4 health, which is cool. And it's interesting that, and this is one of the things that's going to be really cool about the expansion is, the priest cars have a flavor on these mechs. It's, these are repair bots. They're going to give minions health, and the different classes are going to respond differently. They're going to have different types of mechs. Balancing Blades, a warrior card, is probably my favorite card in what they previewed. This card's crazy. It's a spell, 3 mana, deal 1 damage to a random minion, repeat until a minion dies. And Blizzard showed this off during one of the panels, and there's an animation and a sound effect with it. I mean, literally a buzzsaw just goes ping, 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 and just keeps bouncing off the different creatures until something dies. So good. And Control Warriors right now are, they play with, Acolyte of Pain, and they play with these armor smiths that every time one of your minions takes damage, you gain an armor. You can also see the Frothing Berserkers. Every time a minion takes damage, they get bigger. So this could be a really dangerous card for a warrior. Clockwork Giant, very interesting card. All right, you know about a lot of the giants. They're all 8/8, and they all cost a lot of mana, and they also all have a condition where they can cost a little bit less. Well, this one's condition is cost 1 less for each card in your opponent's hand. And what's interesting about this is there are several decks out there that are giant decks that revolve around not playing spells in the early game, saving up a huge hand of cards so that you can play things like Twilight Drake and Giants, and you can get them out earlier because you just saved a lot of cards in your hand. Well, this is the direct counter to those type of hand decks, right? Handlock is one of the ones that does that predominantly. And this is a direct counter to those type of decks. If you have this and your opponent is saving up cards in your hand, well, great. This thing's going to cost less and you're going to get your 8/8 down. So it's interesting that they're making certain cards to counter certain decks. Clockwork Gnome, he's a 2/1 for 1, okay, which is fine. And the Death Rattle, add a spare part to your hand. Now, what's a spare part? Let's skip ahead a little bit. These are the spare parts. So these are like little cantrips, little tiny spells. They don't do a ton on their own, but they're cool, a little after effect. So when that other card dies, you're gonna get one of these. There are 7 of them. You can give a minion taunt, you can freeze a minion, give a friendly minion stealth until your next turn, give a minion +1 attack, swap a minion's attack and health, give a minion +1 health, or return a friendly minion to your hand. So these are the spare parts that you can get. And now we'll go back. Back too far. Here we go, Clockwork Gnome. So add a spare part to your hand. It's pretty cool. I like the spare part mechanic. I don't know about this guy. Gnomish Experimenter. He's 3 mana for 3/2. Battle Cry. Draw a card. But if it's a minion, transform it into a chicken. I could see some decks maybe playing around this. If you fill maybe it's not a creature heavy deck. Maybe it is Freeze Mage or something. It's just something that does not require a lot of creatures in your deck. And yeah, that's a big gamble. Otherwise, I don't know if he'll see money play. Somebody will make a deck around this guy, and it'll be crazy. But in general, he's pretty risky. Tinkertown Technician. All right, Tinkertown's in Dunmoreau, right? So 3 mana to summon. He's a 3/3, and if you have a mech, gain +1/+1 and a spare part to your hand. So you get one of those little cantrips, and he can also be a 4/4 for 3 mana. So this is probably pretty strong with all the mech cards coming out. Oh no, I didn't mean to skip that. All right, Ogre War Maul, great new weapon. It's a 4/2, but a 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. So the good news is it does not attack any of your friendly stuff, so it can't hurt you. But you can just attack the wrong thing. Let's say you want to take out some small creature, and instead, you just whacked yourself into Ragnaros or something like that. Like, oh, I just took 8 damage. So this is gonna be a fun little card. I saw on the stream somebody play that, and they actually attacked the wrong target, and it's kind of funny to watch. I'm not sure what this is. This is a 2 mana 3/2 minion with Wind Fury that appeared in the G versus G demo video. Okay. We don't know much about that. All right, and Shrinkmeister we saw. Bomb Lobber we saw. This is just like a graphic showing it. This is the new card back you're going to get in November, right? It's actually cool that, I didn't think twice of it when they announced, hey, we're going to have a new Goblin kind of themed card back. But now that makes sense why we're getting that. And again, that's what the board looks like here. I think we're at the end. That's the spectator mode. All right, so that's the end of that. I just wanted to talk real quick about randomness, right? I mentioned that earlier. I'll just put something random on the screen here. And hey, it's random. So Blizzard, before they even announced this expansion, they went through a talk about randomness in the card game, because they see a lot of feedback. And if you check out the forums or Reddit, you see a lot of feedback about, oh, this game is so RNG, and that, you know, anytime that, you know, somebody plays a card with a high amount of randomness, it kills the ability to be skillful, and so they kind of put randomness on one end of a scale and skill on the other end of the scale, and they say, you know, you can have one or the other. And so Blizzard took the time to explain that that's not really true at all. It's not, you know, having one does not mean the absence of the other. And they kind of put up a chart with different games that we play, and it was kind of like a line graph with you know, randomness along one axis and strategy, levels of strategy on another axis. And they said that there's games out there that have like no strategy or little to no strategy and little to no randomness, like tic-tac-toe. And that's just in general not a very fun game. You know, but it is an accurate representation of that type of low random, low skill. And then you have a game like Monopoly. And Monopoly is high randomness and a low skill. So there's not much strategy that you can put into a Monopoly game. I mean, there's some, but you know, really it's about, are you landing on the spaces to collect, you know, the proper properties so that you can, you know, build your hotels and stuff like that and get a lot of fees out of the other players built on random dice rolls. And then you have games like chess, which have a very low amount of randomness to each game, but a high level of strategy. All right, and then there are games that have high strategy and high randomness. And the example they gave is poker. And poker is, you know, all about like whatever cards you're going to get are going to be random, right? And your opponent's going to have random cards too. And they said that what this does is it creates a situation where the highly skillful players that have a lot of strategy and have invested a lot of time learning the game, they can react well and better than a novice player, given all of the randomness that's happening around them. Meaning, like, yeah, you're going to have random hands and you're going to have situations you never saw before, and there's going to be, you know, some unpredictability there. But because you have a lot of skill, you can navigate that situation. You can, you know, think about all the permutations about what just happened and come to a more informed decision about what the best play is, playing the odds. And whereas a player who has less skill is, you know, sure, you might get lucky sometimes, but it's more of a you know, a long-term thing. Are you going to be able to make the right decisions long-term if you have little skill despite the randomness? And the answer is probably no. So they kind of equated Hearthstone to a game more like poker, and that what the randomness of the game does is, sure, you're going to have some games that are just totally heartbreaking, and like you did everything right and you played a strategically sound game, but the other guy won because his Ragnaros happened to hit the one thing that it needed to hit. You know, you had like 5 creatures on the board and only 7 health left, and of course it hits you and you lost even though you were going to win next turn. So there's definitely going to be, you know, these rage quit moments, and this, you know, the randomness will, you know, totally foil your plans at sometimes. But they said that what it does is it allows a couple of different things. One is it allows you to have great stories, right? You can have these unbelievable moments that happen because of the randomness. Like, I might not have liked that Ragnaros play, but then the other side of the field, you know, his only chance of winning was Ragnaros ignoring all of your creatures and going right to the face, and he won. So he has a story to kind of tell and share. The other thing it does is exactly what we were talking about earlier, is it's going to come up with situations that you've never seen before, especially as we take, you know, the cards that are already in existence and add 120 more to them. The combinations and permutations of what can happen in a single game of Hearthstone is going to be crazy. And so the more random, you know, effects that they have, the more that kind of story will unfold. But also the players that are really highly skillful and really trained and know all the cards, they will be able to kind of flex their adaptability and show off that they know what to do in situations despite the random elements. So it was an interesting kind of take. It proved that the developers are definitely cognizant of the player feedback on randomness, and they really wanted to educate that, because you're going to see cards like we just previewed a bunch of cards, and the word random was in a lot of them. And by the way, they also said that they're only previewing some of the more shiny, sparkly cards, right? We only got to see a handful there. I don't know. What did we see? 15, 20 cards? But it's over 120 cards, and the word random does not, you saw it a lot in these previews, but it's not going to be, as prevalent throughout the entire set as maybe these previews make it out to be. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I love this expansion. I think this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait for the game to totally blow up. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of getting used to. So let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comments field below, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Hearthstone, and I will see you next time. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I will see you later. Take care.